Blinking lights of Leda 9 danced across the grease-stained windows, making the shadows dance. Arlo leaned against the dusty console, counting seconds. The repair shop owner had promised to check the old ship within the hour, but time crawled in these forgotten outposts. He needed a ride off this station, whether by buying cheap salvage or hitching a ride with some cargo hauler desperate enough for an extra hand. The door hissed open. Arlo expected the portly shop owner. Instead, a slender figure burst through, pale violet skin, luminescent yellow eyes darting frantically. She wore what appeared to be modified military gear, scratched and scorched in several places. Blood of an indigo hue trickled from a cut on her forearm. "You," she said, pointing at Arlo. "Can you repair biometric stabilizers?" Arlo hesitated. "Maybe. Depends on the model." The woman approached, her movements precise despite her obvious distress. From a pouch, she produced a device, compact, intricate, with pulsing biolights that reminded Arlo of the deep-sea creatures from Earth's ancient oceans. 15 minutes, she said. "Fix this, and I'll pay enough credits to buy 3 ships like the one you're eyeing." Arlo's trained. I caught the emblem partially scratched off her collar, Zyvex Royal Military, the infamous war machine responsible for the systematic cleansing of the Dora Belt colonies. His muscles tensed. "I don't deal with Zyvex." Her eyes narrowed. "I'm not Zyvex. Not anymore." She glanced nervously at the door. "There are mercenaries on their way. They tracked me to this station. When they arrive, anyone near me becomes a target. Then why should I help you?" She reached into another pouch and pulled out a small data crystal. "Because I stole this to prevent billions of deaths. And because your mechanical aptitude might be the only thing keeping both of us alive within the hour." Arlo studied her face, searching for deception, but finding only desperation and resolve. Against his better judgment, he took the biometric stabilizer. The tech was advanced, military-grade, but modified. Whoever she was, she understood engineering at a level far beyond standard military training. "What's your name?" he asked, already beginning to disassemble the device. "Bell," she replied. "And you?" "Arlo." His fingers moved with practiced precision. The woman, Bell, watched intently, occasionally directing him with technical jargon that confirmed his suspicion. She was no ordinary soldier. Suddenly, the station's alert system blared to life. A mechanical voice announced, "Security breach in docking section C. Unknown armed personnel. All civilians evacuate to designated shelters." Bell's eyes widened. "They're here early," Arlo cursed, finishing the last connection with a quick twist. "There. It should hold. We need to leave. Now." "We?" Arlo frowned. "I never agreed to go anywhere." Bell pointed to the hangar outside. Through the grimy viewport, Arlo saw a group of armored figures methodically moving from ship to ship. One of them, a tall figure with a distinctive red shoulder plate, directed the others with calculated gestures. "That's Taisha," Bell whispered. "She never leaves survivors. Anyone helping me, willingly or not, is already marked for elimination." Arlo's survival instinct kicked in. "The service exit. My ship's in maintenance bay 4. They moved silently through narrow maintenance corridors. Twice they froze as security drones passed overhead. Eventually, they reached a small hangar where Arlo's ship waited, a battered short-range transport with mismatched hull plates and outdated thrusters. "That's your ship." Bell failed to hide her dismay. "It flies." "Most days." Arlo pressed his hand against the entry panel. The door slid open with a reluctant groan. "It's not much, but..." A blast hit the wall behind them, leaving a smoking crater in the metal. Arlo grabbed Bell's arm and pulled her inside as more shots followed. "Start the bypass sequence," he shouted, diving for the pilot's chair. His fingers danced across the console, bringing ancient systems online. Bell was already at the co-pilot station, her hands moving with surprising familiarity over the controls. The ship shuddered to life just as the hangar doors began to close, an automatic lockdown response. "They're sealing us in," Bell warned. Arlo's jaw set in determination. "Not today." He slammed the throttle forward. The engine screamed in protest as the ship lurched toward the narrowing gap. Metal scraped against metal with an ear-splitting shriek. Then they were through, launching into the vast darkness of space. Belle exhaled slowly, her shoulders relaxing slightly. That was... Don't celebrate yet. Arlo cut in, his voice tight with tension. If this rust bucket gives out in deep space, we'll die just as surely as if those mercenaries had caught us. Arlo kept his eyes on the navigation console, plotting a course through the debris field surrounding Lita 9. The station grew smaller behind them, but the knot in his stomach only tightened. He'd escaped one death sentence only to possibly face another, stranded in space with a fugitive from the galaxy's most ruthless military power. And he still had no idea what she'd stolen that was worth killing for. Arlo noticed at first strange lines of code appearing on the navigation interface. Alien characters scrolled where standard galactic script should have been. His eyes narrowed. "What did you do to my ship?" His voice was dangerously low. Belle didn't flinch. "Minor improvements to your propulsion algorithms. We need to be faster than standard tracking can predict. You don't touch my systems without permission." Arlo pushed her hand away from the console. "This might be a rust bucket, but it's my rust bucket, which wouldn't have escaped Lita 9 without my help," Belle countered, her luminescent eyes flashing with intensity. "I'm trying to keep us alive. By compromising my ship? How do I know you haven't installed tracking software? Or sabotage protocols?" Belle's expression hardened. "If I wanted you dead, I could have left you on that station." They glared at each other across the cramped cockpit. Finally, Arlo broke the silence. "What exactly did you steal from Zyvex that's worth a mercenary squad?" Belle hesitated, visibly weighing how much to reveal. Eventually, she reached for the stabilizer they'd repaired together and attached it to a port on her forearm. The device hummed, and lines of light traveled beneath her skin. "I was chief engineer on Project Nexus, the biofusion drive initiative," she began. "It's theoretical technology that fuses biological processes with quantum mechanics to create self-sustaining energy loops. Clean power for vessels, colonies, entire planets." "Sounds beneficial," Arlo remarked skeptically. "It was meant to be, until the military commander overseeing the project realized it could also destabilize planetary cores." Her voice grew quiet. "One drive could render an entire world uninhabitable in hours. A fleet equipped with this technology could subjugate entire systems through threat alone." Arlo's blood ran cold, and Zyvex intended to use it that way. It wasn't a question, but Belle nodded anyway. "I couldn't let that happen. So I corrupted the project data and escaped with the only functional prototype component, a biokey." She tapped the device on her arm. "It's biologically bonded to me. Without it, they can't complete the drive." "So you're not just carrying stolen tech," Arlo concluded grimly. "You are the stolen tech." Essentially, the revelation hung heavy between them. Arlo ran a hand through his dark hair, processing the implications. He'd unwittingly become entangled in a conflict that could reshape power dynamics across inhabited space. "You should have told me before dragging me into this." "Would you have helped if I had?" Arlo didn't answer. Instead, he turned his attention back to the navigation system, scrubbing Belle's modifications and reinstating his own protocols. They flew in tense silence for nearly an hour, the only sounds the constant hum of the ship's aging systems. A shrill alarm shattered the quiet. "Oxygen levels dropping," Arlo announced, scanning the diagnostic readout. "We've got a leak in the aft compartment." "Old coolant line rupture," Belle observed, already on her feet. "The pressure shift from our escape must have completed the structural failure." They rushed to the engine room, where a thin whistle of escaping air confirmed their diagnosis. Arlo grabbed an emergency repair kit while Belle examined the damaged section. "The breach is behind that panel," she pointed. "We need to seal it before we lose too much atmosphere." Working in a confined space, they became a surprisingly efficient team. Arlo's hands were steady despite the danger, while Belle's technical knowledge complemented his practical experience. Sweat beaded on their foreheads as oxygen levels continued to drop. "Hand me the molecular sealant," Arlo instructed, reaching blindly behind him. Belle pressed the tube into his palm, their fingers brushing momentarily. Something like an electric current passed between them, a momentary connection that caused both to freeze. In that second of distraction, Belle winced suddenly, her free hand flying to the bio key on her arm. The device pulsed with increased intensity, veins of light spreading further along her skin. "What's wrong?" Arlo asked, concern momentarily overriding their previous tension. "It's growing larger," she whispered, pain evident in her voice. "This is going to hurt." The bio key flared, energy cascading through the biological pathways in her arm. Belle gasped, steadying herself against the bulkhead. "Is it malfunctioning?" Arlo applied the sealant to the breach, his movements hurried but precise. "No," Belle managed through gritted teeth. "It's adapting, forming new neural connections. The leak sealed, they returned to the cockpit, oxygen levels slowly stabilizing. Belle seemed recovered, though she occasionally glanced at the bio key with a troubled expression. As Arlo adjusted their course, an old emergency beacon activated on the communications array, a broadcast message being transmitted throughout the sector. A woman's voice, cold and professional, filled the cabin. "Attention all vessels and stations. The Zyvex Royal Military offers substantial reward for information leading to the capture of a female Xerian fugitive, light purple skin coloration, traveling with possible human accomplice. Subjects are to be considered armed and extremely dangerous. Reports sightings to encrypted channel Omega-7. The transmission ended, replaced by an image of Belle, and beside her, a grainy security capture of Arlo from Leda 9. "Congratulations," Belle said grimly. "You're officially a galactic fugitive." Before Arlo could respond, the proximity alert blared. A small but fast-moving object had locked onto their trajectory, a tracking drone, almost certainly deployed by Taisha's squad. "We've got company," Arlo announced, already executing evasive maneuvers. The drone followed their every turn, gaining steadily despite Arlo's skilled piloting. Belle worked frantically at the weapons console, trying to establish a targeting lock. "This ship's defensive systems are archaic," she muttered. "They still work?" Arlo insisted, executing a tight spiral that momentarily confused the drone's tracking. The brief advantage gave Belle enough time to fire the ship's single-point defense cannon. The shot went wide, but the drone altered course in response, giving Arlo opportunity for a more complex evasion pattern. "It's transmitting our position," Belle warned. "I'm attempting to jam its signal, but it's using encrypted frequencies that shift every few seconds." Arlo pushed the ship harder than he ever had before, weaving through a field of stellar debris. Metal groaned in protest, temperature gauges climbing into dangerous zones. "Can you access its command protocols?" he asked, barely avoiding collision with a chunk of derelict satellite. "Working on it. Their security is wait." Belle's eyes widened. "I recognize this encryption architecture. It's based on my own work at Zyvex." Her fingers flew across the console with renewed purpose. The bio key on her arm pulsed in rhythm with her efforts, as if synchronizing with her determination. "Got it," she exclaimed finally. "Transferring control now." The drone abruptly stopped pursuing them, hovering motionless in space. Belle's triumphant smile faded almost immediately. "Self-destruct sequence activated," she announced. "Taisha must have installed fail-safes. Detonation in 10 seconds. "How big an explosion?" Arlo demanded, already accelerating away. "Big enough to cripple us." Arlo pushed the engines beyond safety limits, putting maximum distance between the ship and the drone. The explosion, when it came, still rocked them violently, sending damage alerts flashing across every console. "Main navigation offline," Arlo reported grimly. "Stabilizers failing. We need to land. Now." The nearest celestial body was a small, barren moon orbiting a gas giant. Its surface was cratered and inhospitable, but it was their only option. "That atmosphere is highly radioactive," Belle warned, reading the scanners. "And oxygen content is minimal." "We don't have a choice," Arlo responded, fighting the controls as the ship began its descent. "Strap in. This is going to be rough." The landing was less a controlled descent and more a managed crash. Metal screamed, and sparks flew as they skidded across the moon's surface, finally coming to rest in the shadow of a towering rock formation. Emergency lights bathed the interior in red as the main power fluctuated. Arlo ran a quick diagnostic, the results confirming his fears. The ship had sustained critical damage. Drive coupling is completely fried, he announced. Life support's running on auxiliaries. We're not leaving this rock without major repairs. Bell was already pulling environment suits from a storage locker. Then we'd better get started. These suits will shield us from the radiation temporarily, but the filters won't last more than a few hours. They suited up in grim silence, each painfully aware of the ticking clock. Outside, the landscape was bleakly beautiful. Jagged rock formations under a sky dominated by the swirling gases of the giant planet above. Working together, they assessed the damage. Arlo focused on the propulsion system while Bell examined the navigation array. The work was difficult in the bulky environmental suits, and the extreme conditions only compounded their challenges. 2 hours in, frustration boiled over. "This is pointless," Arlo said, throwing down a fusion wrench. "We can't fix this with the tools we have. We're going to die on this rock, and for what? Some weapon you decided to play hero with." Bell stood slowly, her eyes visible through the helmet visor, bright with anger. "I didn't play hero. I prevented genocide, and now we're both going to die for it. You think I wanted this?" she demanded. "To be hunted? To live knowing every moment could be my last? To involve innocent people in my struggle? Then why did you run?" Arlo challenged. "Why not destroy your research completely?" "Because I couldn't." Bell's voice broke. "The bio-key contains the only stable quantum configuration capable of sustainable fusion. Destroying it would mean losing the beneficial applications forever. Clean energy for billions, terraforming capabilities for dying worlds." The admission hung between them in the thin atmosphere. Arlo's anger deflated slightly. "So, you're protecting both the weapon and the cure," he said more quietly. "Yes." Bell turned away, staring across the barren landscape. "I never wanted to involve anyone else, especially not someone who just wanted to escape their own past." The perceptive comment struck Arlo like a physical blow. He'd never mentioned his history, but somehow she had sensed the shadows he carried. "How much oxygen do we have left?" he asked finally, changing the subject. "Maybe an hour in the suits," Bell replied. After that, she left the thought unfinished. Arlo looked at the damaged ship, then back to Bell. Something shifted in his expression. "Show me the bio-key," he said suddenly. "If it's as powerful as you claim, maybe we can use it. Create a temporary power source strong enough to get us off-world." "It's not designed to interface with conventional technology," Bell warned. "And the biological component requires a living host." "I know." Arlo met her gaze steadily. "You." Understanding dawned in Bell's eyes. "It would be incredibly dangerous. The energy output could overwhelm my nervous system." "More dangerous than certain death?" The question lingered between them. Finally, Bell nodded. "Let's try." They returned to the ship, removing their helmets once inside the pressurized cabin. Working with renewed purpose, Arlo modified the engine interface while Bell prepared the bio-key for expanded functionality. "This connection point here," Arlo indicated, "could accept the energy output if we convert it through this regulator." Their hands brushed again as they worked, but this time neither pulled away. Instead, their eyes met, a moment of connection transcending their dire circumstances. "Why are you helping me?" Bell asked softly. "You could have abandoned me, claimed the reward." "I'm not a mercenary," Arlo replied. "And maybe I've spent too long running from things instead of towards something worth fighting for." The moment stretched between them, electric and fragile. Then, slowly, inevitably, they moved closer. Their lips met in a kiss born of desperation, shared danger, and something deeper neither was ready to name. When they separated, Bell's eyes were wide with emotion and pain. The bio-key was pulsing more intensely, threads of energy spreading visibly beneath her skin. "It's growing larger," she gasped. "The emotional response. It's accelerating the integration." Arlo steadied her as she swayed. Will you be able to complete the connection? Belle nodded determinedly. Yes. But Arlo, this is going to hurt. A lot. The modified interface was ready within the hour. Belle positioned herself at the central console, BioKey connected to the ship's power relays through a complex arrangement of adapters and cables. Once I initiate the sequence, she explained, the BioKey will draw energy directly from my bioelectric field. It will amplify it exponentially and feed it into the ship's systems. And the risk to you? Arlo asked, concern evident in his voice. Neural overload. Possible cardiac arrhythmia. She attempted a reassuring smile. Nothing fatal. Probably. Arlo wasn't convinced, but they had no alternatives. I'll monitor your vitals. If they drop too low, I'm cutting the connection regardless of whether we're ready to launch. Fair enough. Belle took a deep breath. Initiating sequence now. She pressed her palm against the BioKey's central node. Immediately, light erupted along the pathways beneath her skin, spreading up her arm and across her torso. Her back arched, face contorted in pain. The ship's systems flickered, then surged to life. Dormant consoles illuminated, engines humming with power far beyond their design specifications. Navigation online, Arlo reported, dividing his attention between the ship's status and Belle's biometric readings. Her heart rate was dangerously elevated, breathing shallow. Propulsion at 115% capacity. Belle, we're good to go. You can disconnect. Not yet, she gasped. Need stable orbit first. Arlo took the controls, guiding the ship upward through the thin atmosphere. The vessel responded with unprecedented agility, energy reserves climbing rather than depleting. As they broke free of the moon's gravity well, Belle finally disconnected from the system. She collapsed into the co-pilot's chair, exhausted but alive. The ship continued to run on the residual energy, system stable. You did it, Arlo said, genuine admiration in his voice. That was incredible. Belle managed a weak smile. We did it. I provided the power source, but your modifications made it compatible with. An alarm cut her off. A vessel had just entered the system, a sleek, predatory craft instantly recognizable from military broadcasts across the galaxy. Taisha, Belle whispered, fear replacing exhaustion. She found us. The mercenary ship was not alone. Two smaller craft flanked it, clearly armed with military-grade weapons. They must have followed the energy signature from the BioKey, Arlo surmised, already plotting an escape vector. Before he could execute it, their communications system activated. A woman's face appeared on screen. Sharp features, eyes cold with calculated intelligence, a scar running from temple to jaw. Fugitive Beltoran and human accomplice. Taisha's voice was smooth, almost pleasant. You've led us on quite the chase. What do you want, Taisha? Belle demanded, straightening despite her weakened state. You know exactly what I want. The BioKey and all associated research. Taisha's smile never reached her eyes. Surrender now, and I might let your human pet live. And if we refuse, Arlo interjected. Taisha's gaze shifted to him, assessing. Then I'll ensure your deaths are particularly unpleasant. And afterward, I'll retrieve the BioKey from your corpse, Belle. The choice is yours. The transmission ended, replaced by tactical displays showing the approaching vessels. We can't outrun them, Arlo said grimly. Not all three. We don't have to. Determination hardened Belle's features. Their ships rely on a centralized command matrix. Taisha's vessel controls targeting and shield modulation for the entire squadron. So we target her ship directly? Exactly. Belle struggled to her feet, moving back to the engineering console. But we'll need more power than conventional weapons can provide. Understanding dawned in Arlo's eyes. The BioKey again, this time funneled through your weapon systems instead of propulsion. Belle's hands moved across the console, reconfiguring connections. It will create a targeted electromagnetic pulse, powerful enough to temporarily disable their systems. How long will it give us? Minutes at most. Enough to escape if we're fast. She hesitated. But the strain on my system will be even greater than before. Arlo caught her hand. There has to be another way. There isn't. her fingers intertwined with his. Sometimes the only path forward is the painful one. Taisha's ships moved into attack formation, weapons systems powering up. Arlo reluctantly returned to the pilot's station, preparing for the most difficult flying of his life. "Ready when you are," he said quietly. Bell connected the bio key to the newly configured interface. This time, the energy flow was immediate and intense. Light coursed through her entire body, her scream of pain cutting off as her vocal cords seized. The ship's weapon system charged to unprecedented levels. On the tactical display, Taisha's vessels continued their approach, unaware of the gathering storm. "Hold on," Arlo urged, both to Bell and himself. "Just a few more seconds." The lead ship came within optimal range. Arlo fired. A pulse of blue-white energy erupted from their vessel, expanding in a directed wave. It struck Taisha's squadron with devastating precision. Systems failed across all three ships, lights flickering out, momentum carrying them forward on dead engines. Now, Arlo executed a series of maneuvers that would have been impossible without the BioKey's enhancement, weaving between the disabled vessels. As they passed Taisha's command ship, he caught a glimpse through a viewport. The mercenary commander, fury evident even at a distance, shouting orders to a crew scrambling to restore power. Then they were past, accelerating toward open space. Bell disconnected from the weapons system, collapsing to the deck. Arlo engaged the autopilot and rushed to her side. "Bell, stay with me." He cradled her head, checking vital signs. Her pulse was erratic, breathing shallow. "Did we make it?" she whispered, eyes struggling to focus. "Yes, we're clear." Arlo lifted her gently, carrying her to the small medical bay. "But we need to stabilize you." Bio-key. Overload. Each word seemed to cost her tremendous effort. "Need to regulate." Arlo connected the ship's basic medical scanner, alarmed at the readings. The bio-key was drawing dangerous levels of energy from her biological systems, threatening organ failure. "How do I stop it?" he demanded, fear sharpening his voice. "Can't stop. Must balance." Bell's hand feebly indicated a storage compartment. "Green vial. Stabilizer compound." Arlo found the vial and loaded it into an injection system. He hesitated before administering it. What if this accelerated the process instead? But Bell's rapidly deteriorating condition left no room for doubt. The effect was almost immediate. The light pulsing beneath her skin dimmed to a steady glow, her breathing easing. She remained unconscious, but her vital signs stabilized. Arlo stayed by her side, monitoring her condition while periodically checking the ship's course. They were heading toward the fringes of controlled space, where Taisha's influence would be limited. Hours passed before Bell stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "Welcome back," Arlo said softly. "Taisha?" Her voice was hoarse but stronger. "No sign of pursuit. Her ships will need extensive repairs after that pulse." Relief washed over Bell's features. She attempted to sit up, wincing at the effort. Arlo supported her, concern evident in his touch. "The bio-key nearly killed you," he said. "We need to find a way to remove it or contain its effects." "It can't be removed," Bell explained. "Not without killing me. The neural integration is too complete." She examined the device, now pulsing gently in rhythm with her heartbeat. "But I'm learning to control it better." "There has to be a permanent solution," Arlo insisted. "Some way to—" The proximity alert interrupted him. A ship had appeared on their scanners, significantly larger than Taisha's vessel. "Is it Zyvex?" Bell asked, fear returning. Arlo checked the identification markers. "No, independent vessel. Trading registry." He frowned at additional readings. "But its energy signature is unusual. Almost like it's using prototype biofusion technology," Bell finished, her expression darkening. "It's Taisha. She must have had a backup ship with experimental drives." The larger vessel accelerated toward them with impossible speed, confirming their suspicions. No conventional engine could provide such rapid acceleration. "She's hailing us," Arlo reported, accepting the transmission. Taisha appeared on screen again, her previous composure replaced by cold fury. A livid burn marked one side of her face, evidence of system failures during their previous encounter. "I underestimated you," she acknowledged. "A mistake I won't repeat." "It's over, Taisha," Bell said, standing beside Arlo despite her weakened state. "The bio-key will never be used as a weapon. Then you'll both die for nothing." Taisha's smile was terrible to behold. "My ship carries a prototype bio-fusion drive, incomplete without your key, but powerful enough to destroy you." The transmission ended. Moments later, the tactical display showed Taisha's vessel launching a small shuttle, heading directly for them. "She's coming aboard personally," Arlo realized, preparing for docking breach. "We can't let her take the bio-key," Bell said urgently. "If she integrates it with even a prototype drive—" "I know." Arlo retrieved a pulse pistol from a storage locker. "We'll make our stand in the airlock corridor. Narrow approach, limited angles." They positioned themselves at the junction between the airlock and main corridor, makeshift barricades providing minimal cover. The ship shuddered as Taisha's shuttle established a hard seal against their hull. "Whatever happens," Bell said quietly, "thank you for standing with me." Arlo's response was cut short by the sound of their airlock being overridden. The inner door slid open, revealing Taisha and two heavily armed guards. "How touching," Taisha remarked, taking in the scene. The fugitive and her human protector, making their last stand. "This ends here," Bell declared, the bio-key pulsing more intensely on her arm. "Indeed it does." Taisha signaled her guards. "Take them." The mercenaries advanced with practiced precision. Arlo fired the pulse pistol, catching one in the shoulder. The guard staggered, but didn't fall. "Body armor," Arlo muttered, adjusting his aim to target exposed joints. The confined space erupted in chaos. Energy beams, shouts, the acrid smell of discharge and burning materials. Arlo managed to incapacitate one guard with a shot to the knee, but the other pressed forward relentlessly. In the confusion, Taisha circled around, appearing suddenly behind Bell. A blade flashed in her hand, pressing against Bell's throat. "Enough," Taisha commanded. "Drop your weapon, human, or watch her bleed." Arlo hesitated, pulse pistol still raised. Bell's eyes met his, not fearful but determined. "Don't," she said. "She needs me alive to access the bio-key." "True," Taisha acknowledged, blade still pressed against Violet's skin. "But you don't need all your limbs intact for that. Drop the weapon. Now." Reluctantly, Arlo lowered the pistol. The remaining guard quickly secured him, binding his hands with energy restraints. "A wise choice," Taisha said, shifting her blade to Bell's side while maintaining control. "Now, Beltorin, you're going to help me complete my drive." "I'll die first," Bell spat. "No, you won't," Taisha replied calmly. "But he might." She nodded toward Arlo. "You care for this human, yes? Help me integrate the bio-key with my prototype, and he lives." "Refuse." The blade pressed deeper, drawing indigo blood. "Don't do it, Bell," Arlo urged. "Whatever happens to me, the weapon can't be activated." Taisha smiled coldly. "Such nobility. Let's see how long it lasts." She nodded to her guard, who struck Arlo across the face with punishing force. Blood trickled from Arlo's split lip, but his gaze remained defiant. "Is that the best you've got?" The guard raised his weapon to strike again, but Bell's voice stopped him. "Wait. I'll show you how to integrate the key." "Bell, no." Arlo struggled against his restraints. "I have to," she replied, her expression unreadable. "I'm sorry, Arlo." Taisha's victorious smile chilled the air between them. "Bring them both to my shuttle. The human's presence will ensure continued cooperation." They were marched through the airlock into Taisha's craft, a military-grade transport modified with experimental technology. In the main chamber, a pulsing core confirmed Bell's fears, an incomplete bio-fusion drive, missing only the stabilizing influence of the bio-key. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Taisha gestured toward the core. "Stolen from your own laboratory after you fled. Incomplete, but functional enough for limited applications. With your key, however." It would achieve full spectrum capabilities, Bell finished grimly, including planetary destabilization. Precisely. Taisha pushed Bell toward a control console. Now begin the integration sequence. Under careful guard, Bell approached the system. Her fingers moved slowly over the interface, the bio key pulsing in rhythm with the core. The alignment requires precise calibration, she explained, voice carefully neutral. Too much power too quickly will trigger a cascade failure. Arlo watched her work, mind racing for any possible escape strategy. The guard beside him remained vigilant, weapon ready. How long? Taisha demanded impatiently. Minutes at most, Bell replied. The key is responsive to my intentions. Something in her tone caught Arlo's attention, a subtle emphasis that triggered understanding. The bio key responded to Bell's biological signals, including her intentions. She wasn't integrating it with the core. She was preparing something else entirely. Taisha, however, seemed oblivious to the subtext. She moved closer to the core, anticipation evident in her posture. With this technology, I'll command respect from every major power in the quadrant, she said, almost to herself. Even Zyvex will negotiate with me. You don't understand what you're dealing with, Bell warned, hands still moving across the console. The energies involved are beyond conventional containment. I understand power when I see it. Taisha cut her off. That's all that matters. The core's pulsations increased in frequency, a deep vibration spreading through the shuttle. Warning lights flashed across auxiliary consoles. It's reaching critical alignment, Bell announced, fingers flying across the interface. Prepare for energy surge. Taisha's face was illuminated by the core's intensifying glow, avarice and triumph battling for dominance in her expression. At last, Bell caught Arlo's eye for a split second, a silent message passing between them. Then she pressed her palm firmly against the bio key, closed her eyes, and whispered, "It's growing larger. This is going to hurt." Light erupted from the bio key, coursing through her body. But instead of flowing into the core, as Taisha expected, the energy formed a protective barrier around Bell. Simultaneously, she sent a devastating pulse through the shuttle systems. Alarms blared as consoles exploded in showers of sparks. The guard monitoring Arlo was momentarily distracted, giving him the opportunity to slam his shoulder into the mercenary. They crashed to the deck together, Arlo desperately maneuvering to bring his bound hands before him. "What have you done?" Taisha screamed at Bell, drawing a sidearm. "Created a feedback loop," Bell gasped through evident pain. "The prototype is destabilizing." The core's glow had transformed from steady blue to pulsing red. Metal groaned as internal pressures built beyond design tolerances. "You'll kill us all." Taisha aimed her weapon at Bell's head. Arlo, having managed to incapacitate the guard, launched himself at Taisha. The impact sent her shot wide, scoring a burning line across Bell's shoulder instead of a fatal blow. The two grappled on the vibrating deck, Taisha's combat training evident in her precise strikes despite her fury. Even with his hands bound, Arlo matched her intensity with raw determination. Blood and sweat mingled as they fought for control of the weapon. Meanwhile, Bell struggled to contain the cascading failure she'd initiated. The bio key drew increasingly on her own life force, threatening to consume her in the process of saving them. "Arlo," she called out weakly, "the ship is going to breach. We need to get back to ours." He caught a glimpse of her collapsing against the console, energy visibly draining from her body into the protective barrier, maintaining their survival amidst the chaos. With desperate strength, Arlo finally wrestled the weapon from Taisha, striking her temple with its grip. The mercenary commander crumpled to the deck, momentarily stunned. "This isn't over," Taisha snarled, blood trickling from a cut above her eye. "I'll hunt you across the galaxy." "No," Arlo replied evenly, "you won't." He fired a paralyzing shot into her shoulder, ensuring she couldn't immediately follow. Then he rushed to Bell, supporting her weight as they staggered toward the airlock. "The core?" he asked, helping her across the threshold. 20 seconds to critical failure, she managed between labored breaths. Maybe less. They sealed the connection between vessels, and Arlo activated the emergency release, forcibly detaching Taisha's shuttle from their ship. As they stumbled to the cockpit, the shuttle drifted away, internal lights flickering chaotically. Arlo initiated immediate departure, the engines responding sluggishly to commands. The ship lurched forward, accelerating away from the doomed shuttle. Behind them, the prototype biofusion drive reached catastrophic failure. The explosion blossomed silently in space, a sphere of brilliant energy expanding outward. The shockwave hit them seconds later, tossing their small vessel like a leaf in a hurricane. When the tumbling finally ceased, Arlo looked out the viewport. Where Taisha's shuttle had been, only debris remained, spreading in a glittering cloud across the void. Is she? Belle began weakly. I don't know, Arlo answered honestly. She's resourceful, could have reached an escape pod, but that was a problem for another day. Belle had collapsed completely, the bio-key pulsing erratically against her ashen skin. He carried her to the medical bay, hooking her to every monitoring system available. The readings were grim: systemic shock, neural pathway damage, metabolic collapse. The bio-key had drawn too deeply from her life force to maintain the barrier that saved them. Don't you dare die on me now, Arlo whispered, administering emergency stimulants. Not after all this. Hours passed with agonizing slowness. Arlo alternated between the medical bay and cockpit, steering them toward the fringes of charted space where they might find anonymity. Occasionally, he spoke to Belle's unconscious form, recounting stories from his past he'd never shared with anyone. His childhood on mining stations, the accident that left him orphaned, his years drifting between worlds seeking something he couldn't name. Maybe that something was purpose, he told her. Something worth fighting for instead of just surviving. He adjusted a fluid drip with careful precision. So you need to wake up and continue being my purpose for a while longer. Whether from his care, her own resilience, or some combination of both, Belle eventually stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, seeking focus in the dimly lit medical bay. Welcome back, Arlo said softly, echoing his words from before. Taisha, her voice was barely audible. Gone, at least for now. Belle processed this information with a small nod. The bio-key, still attached to you, but it's different, quieter somehow. She glanced down at her arm where the device remained, its glow steady but subdued. It adapted again, used its own reserves to keep me alive after I pushed it too far. Sentient technology, Arlo mused. Remarkable and terrifying. Like most powerful things. Her eyes met his. Where are we going? Outer territories. Beyond regular patrol routes. I know some places where questions aren't asked as long as you can pay your way. Belle struggled to sit up, and Arlo supported her with gentle hands. Through the small viewport beside the medical bed, countless stars shimmered against absolute darkness. I never asked about your past, she said after a moment. What you were running from on Leda. Nothing as noble as your cause, Arlo admitted. Just mistakes, bad choices, people I let down. And now, he considered the question. Now I'm running towards something instead. That makes all the difference. Slowly, hesitantly, Belle reached for his hand. Their fingers intertwined, a connection more profound than the technology binding them together. The bio-key still contains the foundations for clean energy, she said. Someday, when it's safe, we could complete that work. Help people instead of harming them. Is that what you want? I want to stop running, she replied simply. Find somewhere to belong. Someone to belong with. The unspoken question hung between them, fragile and hopeful. Where do we go now? Arlo asked, a smile touching his lips. Belle en sourire smile. Was weary but genuine. Somewhere we can be free to rebuild. Their hands remained joined as they gazed out at the stars. Two fugitives who had found in each other something neither had been looking for, a future worth fighting for. The bio-key pulsed gently on Belle's arm, its light neither painful nor threatening, but steady and bright, like a promise. Whatever challenges awaited them in the vastness of space, they would face them together, the alien engineer and the human drifter, bound by choice rather than circumstance.